Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, you got quiet quick. Excellent. Must be the acoustics. Welcome to our celebration of the 85th anniversary of the Federal Credit Union Act. I'm Executive Director Mark Treichel, and I'm thrilled you are here to celebrate with us in person and via live stream. Now go back in time with me for a moment. It's 1934. If you're a baseball fan, you watched Yankee great Lou Gehrig hit for the Triple Crown. Dizzy Dean win 30 games and lead the Cardinals to the World Series. If movies were your thing, in 1934, you were blessed with the tremendous screen presence of Clark Gable, Marlene Dietrich, and Laurel and Hardy. And music lovers of 1934 swooned for Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, and Bing Crosby. Time magazine was in its prime in 1934, and it gave its Man of the Year award to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt for his many, many achievements this year. These achievements included FDR signing the Federal Credit Union Act. I'd like to read a paragraph from the agency's oldest maintained annual report, which states on its first page, the Federal Credit Union Act became effective June 26, 1934, and as bylaws could be prepared and an accounting system prescribed, Charter Number 1 was issued to the Morris Shepherd Federal Credit Union of Texarkana, Texas, which was named in honor of the sponsor of the law, the late senator from Texas. The organizational meeting for the first Federal Credit Union was held on October 1, 1934. And it may be said that the financial history of federal credit unions began with the gathering in of the very few dollars which made up the assets of this group of municipal employees at the close of their credit union that first day. The signing of the Federal Credit Union Act in 1934, coupled with the creation of both the Insurance Fund and NCUA, propelled credit union growth, bringing us to today's America, where credit unions safely serve 117 million members and have provided many Americans with rewarding careers. Now, before we hear from the chairman, please stand for our national anthem, which will be performed by NCUA staff member Vladimir Rivera Varela.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, we're so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, their bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now, we might lose you to American Idol here coming up, especially if this video gets out. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce the 11th chairman of NCUA, Rodney Hood.
Happy 85th anniversary, NCUA. Hear, hear. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us all here today. I want to especially thank a lot of our invited guests, and I want to thank you all. In fact, first I want to thank Federal Housing Commissioner Brian Montgomery. Can we all recognize you? We also have a number of folks visiting us today from the White House, from the U.S. Treasury, and from the Small Business Administration, and also a lot of the folks with whom we work from the Federal Home Loan Bank System. So let's thank them all. If you could raise your hands if I just reference any of your groups. Thank you. I am delighted to welcome all of you as we commemorate the signing of the Federal Credit Union Act by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, which occurred on this day, June 26, 1934. Now, 85 years later, federally insured credit unions are stronger than ever, with nearly $1.5 trillion in assets, offering a variety of financial products, including mortgages, consumer loans, and member business loans to tens of millions of Americans. The rise of the credit union movement is a story of expanding economic opportunity, and it indeed is a wonderful story to tell, because it was not always the case. These innovative financial institutions emerged in response to a great need and in a time of great national trial. A century ago, many Americans had trouble getting access to capital. If you were from a working or even a middle-class background, if you had a small business you hoped to see grow, or if you had a family farm where you needed to get your crops and livestock to market, access to credit was tough to come by. Moreover, even if you could get capital, it often came with high interest rates, or the loan was structured in ways that made repayment difficult, if not impossible. Then, when the stock market crashed in 1929, what credit might have been readily available suddenly dried up. Thousands of businesses of all sizes closed, millions of people were out of work, and the nation sank into a devastating economic depression. Difficult times demanded creative thinking, and that was the backdrop, ladies and gentlemen, when Congress drafted the Federal Credit Union Act. But the most important story to tell is not about legislation or credit or, quite frankly, even financial institutions. Instead, it is the story about people helping people in their own local communities. It's also important to note that credit unions arose and grew not out of government fiat. Instead, they grew from a grassroots movement of people who were forgotten about and were being left behind. Credit unions, a national system of cooperative credit offered through locally based member-owned financial institutions that could provide affordable credit and saving services to those in need. That is what would be the one key solution to the problem that was facing America to that time. At every step, it was about the promise of people helping people. It, however, was not completely a new idea. Credit unions did exist prior to the federal law. They were chartered by the states, but the Federal Credit Union Act laid the groundwork for the comprehensive system we now have today. That regulatory framework would lead to increased trust, confidence, and accountability, which allowed these vital local institutions to expand, to thrive, and to give back to the communities they serve. Overseeing the credit union system to ensure safety and soundness is the NCUA's critically important mission. Every day, our people are responsible for ensuring that credit unions live up to the values embedded in its original conception. With the stroke of a pen, President Roosevelt made it possible for teachers, police officers and firefighters, military personnel and their families, skilled tradespeople, and so many other hardworking people across the country to combine their resources collectively and organize credit unions. Loans could be provided to members based on the consideration of their character, as well as their ability to repay. The grassroots movement led to a further democratization of banking and credit and contributed to the economic rebirth of America following the Great Depression. Through times of conflict and times of relative calm, through economic booms and busts, through societal and technological challenges, credit unions have carried on that noble tradition of serving their members and their local communities. They have indeed kept their promise of people helping people. Many of the people here today play a role in making that possible. I'd like to now recognize and give my thanks and appreciation to the current NCUA board members in attendance. May I please introduce Board Member Todd Harper, if you could stand and let everyone see you, please. And Board Member Mark McWaters, if we could also thank you as well. Gentlemen, your leadership has contributed greatly to the strength and success of the federally insured credit unions within our care. I thank you for your commitment and your service. But most importantly of all, I want to thank our employees, past, present, and future. I want to thank those past employees because they're the ones, you all, that have laid that great foundation for the institutions that we get to work with and oversee today. But I would be certainly remiss if I didn't thank the 1,128 employees who we have here today or watching, because of you that credit unions are able to achieve great results through our regulatory framework. I want to thank you all, 1,128, who, according to my wishes, bring your best, true, and authentic selves here to this agency every day. And I also want to thank the future. I saw some interns earlier. I don't know if Kennedy is here and the others I've been talking to, but you all are the future that I want to thank, because I think you all are perhaps going to be the future of NCUA as well. So it's because of you that we get to have a great, robust system. I salute your service to this agency, to the credit union system, to their members, and to the citizens of this great nation. Just as the drafters of the law and President Roosevelt envisioned 85 years ago, credit unions are continuing to help people. I believe that they would all be proud of how far we've come since that auspicious beginning. Since that auspicious beginning, credit unions now have over $1.5 trillion in assets. They have loans outstanding of over $1 trillion, and they're serving 1/3 of the American people with a net worth of 11.3%. I think it's safe to say that those founders would be pleased to see the results that are being generated today, and I'm pleased to serve as the chairman that gets to lead this great agency every day. With that being said, happy anniversary. And also, ladies and gentlemen, join me in also welcoming our CFPB Director, Kathy Craniger, and Tom Workman, who is with me on the Financial Stabilization Oversight Committee. So you all welcome. You honor us with your presence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome our keynote speaker, Javita Carranza, the United States Treasurer. Javita has had a distinguished career in public service and the private sector, and hers is a textbook American success story. She rose from a part-time job for UPS to become a high-ranking UPS executive. She later founded her own company, the JCR Group. She has been active in philanthropy and has served her country as the Deputy Administrator of the Small Business Administration and now as Treasurer. It is a pleasure to have a kindred spirit here today for our 85th celebration. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. The podium is yours.
I got a double-decker on that one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very kindly for this very generous introduction and for the invitation to join all of you today as we commemorate the 85th anniversary of the Federal Credit Union Act. I'd like to commend all of you in this room for facilitating the NCUA's mission of maintaining public trust and ensuring the safety and soundness of our credit union system. To carry out this significant role, a skilled and diverse workforce is critical, especially one that functions with the highest standards of coordination and commitment, characteristics that define the heritage of the NCUA. Through rulemaking initiatives, financial literacy resources, innovative consumer assistance programs, and membership services, you are transforming access to credit and creating opportunities for consumers and communities to achieve prosperity for themselves and for the future generations. Our country has long embraced the dynamic between hard work and economic mobility and resilience. Work hard and you will prosper. I have learned that success in achieving the relationship between hard work and prosperity largely depends to the extent that people have access to economic opportunity. As treasurer, I serve as a principal advisor to Secretary Mnuchin on community economic development and financial security. In my role, I hope to bring the American dream more in reach, to boost economic growth, to promote financial security in our country. This administration is committed to doing exactly that by pursuing a daily imperative to broaden economic participation to reach its fullest expression, to create conditions for everyone to benefit from the wealth that comes from economic growth. To achieve this, I'd like to share several policy objectives I know are important to many of you. We are pursuing an agenda that unlocks economic potential by overturning anti-competitive restrictions and burdensome regulations. Dodd-Frank imposed a series of costly regulatory requirements on banks and credit unions. Treasury released a comprehensive report recommending a regulatory framework that will be more conducive to encouraging safe and sound lending by credit unions, including small dollar lending without restricting access to credit through burdensome regulation. It is important for all of us to work together to increase access to safe and affordable financial services and products so that more Americans will be part of the economic mainstream. One critical incentive that will bolster community investment is the Opportunity Zone tax incentive. This vital tax incentive, provisioned under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, holds the promise of uplifting and transforming our nation's communities, leading to new business formation, enhanced job creation, and sustained economic growth. The goal of the program is to provide meaningful investment in areas where the unemployment rate is about 1.6 points higher than average, to invest in communities where the path to prosperity has been underdeveloped. Working with our partners in state and local governments, Treasury designated 8,700 census tracts as opportunity zones. Opportunity zones, or I should say approximately 58% of the minority population are in opportunity zones. And so this is a unique chance for minority communities to advance through private sector engagement. The program works by offering capital gains tax relief to encourage long-term investments in businesses located in economically disadvantaged ones. The incentive is not intended to shelter gains without providing tangible benefits and immediate community impact. The Treasury Department and the administration as a whole are committed to making the Opportunity Zone tax incentive a powerful business and community development tool. Importantly, we cannot achieve full participation in our economy without establishing a financially well-educated population. The connection between financial literacy and economic opportunity in terms of quality, mobility, stability, and resilience is consequential. Financial literacy and capacity building is key to unlocking the foundational aspects of economic opportunity. Under the direction of Secretary Mnuchin, my office was tasked with elevating the importance of financial capability and deploying policy actions in support of financial literacy. Against the backdrop of a strong economy, we are in a position now more than ever, to expand access to quality financial literacy tools necessary to properly manage economic prosperity. The Financial Literacy and Education Commission, which the Secretary asked me to help lead as treasurer, comprises 23 entities, including the NCUA. We are in the process of developing guidance and resources to enable financial institutions and private sector organizations to implement research-based strategies into their financial education activities that include measurements of effectiveness. I have a couple of reports to distribute with me. Treasury recently released a report on behalf of the FLEC entitled Best Practices for the Financial Education at Institutions of Higher Education, which provides recommendations for academic institutions to teach financial literacy skills and to provide resources to students to help them make more informed financial decisions. The report will address recommendations for improving the transparency of student borrowing costs and preparing students for repayment responsibilities. Additionally, the report focuses on strategies for effectively delivering financial literacy tools to the student population broadly, our future workforce. Treasury will soon release a separate report addressing best practices for improving the financial health of consumers and recommendations for reforming the federal government's approach to promoting financial literacy. The report recommendations seek to better coordinate existing financial literacy and education programs and policy proposals for basic financial capability. This will include savings and credit, retirement, and investor education. Despite differing views on how financial service providers can and should contribute to financial knowledge and skill building, there is agreement that financial education is important to community economic development and that these institutions should play an important role in this work. I am incredibly optimistic about our nation's future and honored to have the opportunity to engage with you all here today. I'd like to again acknowledge all of you in this room for carrying out the important work of enabling economic opportunity and helping others become productive and prosperous. Creating effective and ambitious public policy requires big minds and big hearts. I look forward to continuing to working together in improving financial outcomes for our society. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you once again, Madam Treasurer. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce Rebecca Goshorn-Gerada, Special Assistant to the President for Financial Policy at the National Economic Council, who is bringing us a presidential message. Rebecca has served as a Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Treasury Department, as a Senior Counsel to the House Financial Services Committee, and Counsel to the Commissioner of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Those experiences led to her current post, where she advises the President and the National Economic Council Director, Larry Kudlow. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chairman Hood. It is a truly honor and a privilege to be here on behalf of the administration as we celebrate this significant anniversary. And so with that, I'd like to read a letter on behalf of the President of the United States. I send my warmest greetings to those celebrating the 85th anniversary of the passage of the Federal Credit Union Act. In 1934, President Franklin D. Roosevelt enacted the Federal Credit Union Act to authorize the formation of federally chartered credit unions in all states. Today, the principal mission of credit unions remains the same: providing financial services to Americans who are seeking a brighter and more secure financial future. As an independent federal agency, the National Credit Union Administration plays a critical role to helping those and protect the hard-earned savings of more than 116 million credit union members. The National Credit Union's efforts to mitigate risk, ensure deposits, and identify future challenges facing the financial services industry are vitally important to the millions of hardworking men and women. As we celebrate the 85th anniversary of the passage of the Federal Credit Union Act, my administration will continue to work with lawmakers to implement policies that will unleash the full potential of our nation's economy and help more Americans achieve the American dream. I commend you for your hard work and wish the National Credit Union Administration much success in the years to come. Signed by the President of the United States. Thank you.
Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, I know for the moment that many of you have been waiting for long along, it's time to have the celebratory cake. So with that being said, I'd like to ask my fellow board members, Harper and Mr. Waters, to join me over by the cake, and we'll do a ceremonial cut. And then after that, you're free to have cake, and I think there are some other dessert items along the corridor there. So why don't we do that, and after we do our ceremonial cut, let's all have a rest of the celebration.